Hey folks, last night was the group rounds in Hollywood on season 10 of American Idol. We know the group rounds are always full of drama, and this year was no exception. I love watching the group rounds, but I absolutely hate reviewing them. Because there's so many people and they always have, it's so back and forth, it gets very confusing for somebody like me. I wish I could afford an assistant to help me take notes and get things organized, but I'm not that rich, so I guess I'll have to do what I can. So don't be surprised if I get some names mixed up or forget some groups or even make some up along the way. So just bear with me. Ken Warwick threw a curveball at this year's contestants. You know, after the first day in Hollywood, the people that made it through already started forming groups and practicing, only to later find out that they have to include people from day 1 and day 2. So that was a little bit of a curveball for them. A little upsetting for some of them, I'm sure, but you gotta be fair. To be more fair, I think they should actually just throw names in a hat. Throw group names in a hat, and everybody, picks a group at random. You just pick a name out of a hat, and you're teamed up with people. If for no other reason than I would have loved to see Jordan Dorsey forced to sing in a group with Tiffany, Rios, J.C. Badeau, and Scotty McCreery. Wouldn't that have been hilarious? Or at least, if somebody doesn't want to be in a group or can't find a group, they're thrown into a little group of misfits. That would have been fun, too. As I correctly predicted would happen last week, Tatiana Del Snooki brought plenty of drama with her to the group rounds. She couldn't find a group. Oh, what a surprise! At first she said she could probably be in any group that she wanted. She was just shopping around. Of course any group would want her. She's a professional choreographer. This ain't no dance competition, honey. Later on, she couldn't find a group at all. She eventually started begging Scotty McCreery because he couldn't find a group either. So she wanted to team up with him. Now, he was desperate, but he wasn't that desperate, I suppose. She got down on her knees and started singing for him. I was waiting for her to start undoing his belt buckle. Eventually, she stole that new blonde girl for Brett Lowenstern's group, the Sugar Mamas. And they couldn't find anybody else to be in a group with them, so the powers that be decided to let them just be a duo, which I'm sure that blonde girl went on to regret later. They called themselves Rebel Star, and they attempted to sing Irreplaceable, and then they got the axe. Of course, Tiffany was going to start begging for mercy from the judges, but it was a no for her. Now, Scotty McCreery was having a tough time finding a group, too. He was going around to everybody, except Tiffany Rios, of course. Jordan Dorsey told him to sing a song, and don't you know he started into that same damn song that he's been singing. 3rd time on the show. I'm starting to believe he doesn't know anything else. Now, I understand if he thinks that's the strongest song that he's got, but if he thinks that, we'll probably think the same thing. That is, if we ever get to hear him sing something else. Anyway, he finally found a home with Clint Gamboa, J.C. Badeau, Monique de los Santos, and Francis Kuntz. And then they kicked poor little J.C. out of the group. Of course, later on, Scotty went boo-hooing and apologized for not standing up for JC since he's the best kid in the competition. I don't know if Scotty was really sincere about that, but he saw that they were handling JC with kid gloves, and he didn't want to seem like the monster that kicked the poor kid out of the group. But he didn't stand up for him because he didn't want to rock the boat. He was the new guy in the group. If he tried to say something, they might have thrown him out too, so they might sound like father and son singing, but they're damn near the same age, so I actually think it was a wise decision, though, to throw JC out because he was the weakest link of the group. I thought it was one of the better groups of the night, though. They sang Get Ready, and I thought it was great. Having JC there probably would have dragged them way down, but they all made it through anyway. JC did drag down his new group, Sugar Mama and the Babies, with Denise Jackson, Steve Kane, Natalie Hanson, and Brett Lowenstern. They sang Mercy, and it was good up until JC got started, and he couldn't even remember his words. Poor thing didn't even know how to move on stage. So he made up new words to the song about going home. At least he improvised. They all made it through anyway. JC would have never made it through if he didn't look like he was 12 years old. It's like none of them want to be mean to the cute little kid. Somebody should have told Rob Bolin that making up new words shenanigans doesn't work for somebody that looks like a grown man. Now, maybe he's short enough to pass as JC's little brother, but I think maybe the facial hair is what threw the judges. Maybe that's what brought him down. He was in a group called Three's Company with Janet Wood and Chrissy Snow. Wait a minute. No, that was his ex-girlfriend Chelsea and Nick Fink's girlfriend Jacqueline. They were all upset that Nick Fink wasn't there. Why? The dude couldn't sing. Of course, in his defense, none of them could really sing that well. They were a complete mess. Chelsea was okay, I guess, in parts. Jacqueline was shouting out expletives, and Nick. I'm confused. So see, I told you I was going to get confused. And Rob just made up parts to his song. I don't even know what the song was supposed to be, but the girls made it through and Rob got the axe. Chelsea had to say once again, they are not getting back together, and I believe her. She don't want to be with him. Let's see, what were some other groups? Pia, Toscana, Alessandro, Garcia, and Brielle von Hugel. What did they form a group based on who has the most complicated names in the competition? If so, I think it was a good choice because they sang Grenade and it was pretty good. Not perfect, but good enough because they all made it through. We also had Jordan Dorsey's old group, 440. What is that, 440? Is that like 1040 EZ? It sounds more like a tax form than a singing group. Which reminds me, I need to do my taxes. Anyway, Jordan had abandoned them for another group pretty late in the game. And I would have been thrilled about that if I were them because Jordan Dorsey came across as such an asshole, didn't he? It was Adrian, Michael, Lauren Turner, and a couple of others. I thought they were really good. They all went through after a fake out from Jennifer Lopez, of course. They did several fake outs last night. It kind of got old after a while. Jordan's new group, 4+1, with Robbie Rosen, all made it too. They sang I Want You Back, and it was pretty good. Honestly, I like 440 better than 4+1, though. But I like Robbie Rosen. We also had Spanglish with Jovanny, Barreto, Kevin Campos, Jorge, Gabriele, Karen Rodriquez. Now, Kevin was totally unprepared. The rest of the group was ready to sing, and he was still half naked in his hotel room. That makes 2 guys in that group that we've seen shirtless. They had to go hunt him down. I would have just let him sleep. Karen Rodriquez could have sang his part very well. She was really the strongest link in that group, and such a pretty young lady, isn't she? Anyway, they all made it. No, they didn't all make it through. They all did decently, except Jorge. I thought he was terrible. Jovanny and Karen were the only ones that made it through, though. Next, we had Lauren Elena's group. They decided that instead of worrying about a good performance, they'd bring Steven Tyler on stage, let him sing, and damn near do everything except a lap dance for him. That's what you call trying to butter up a judge. But it didn't work out for them because Lauren is the only one that made it through. I didn't think she was really any better than the other girls, but we all knew she was going to make it through anyway. All she had to do was show up. Nashville Stars with Colton Dixon, who was pretty good, and Matt Dillard, who was a hot mess. Though I can't say I was surprised since I didn't think his audition was any good to begin with. Now, Colton is the only one that made it through in that group. He is so pretty, isn't he? Matt said he wants to go home and go to bed. Poor thing. We had the hits with Keeira Lynn Ford, Ashley Sullivan, and Ashton Jones, and some other girl that they didn't name. Wouldn't that be so disappointing if you were on there and they showed your group, but they didn't even tell your name? They sang Hit 'em Up style. Now, Ashley, she couldn't make up her mind if she wanted to be there or not. She quit, and then she came back, and she just didn't know what she wanted to do. She said she didn't like having the cameras on her. Maybe you should have thought about that before auditioning to be on the #1 most viewed TV show in the world. I don't know what she was thinking, but if I were those other girls, I wouldn't even have tried to talk her into staying because don't they realize the more people that you have there, the more competitions you have? So if she goes home, you have a better chance of going through. And I think they would have done just fine without her anyway. But they all did great together. I'm sure the boo-hooing and indecisiveness, though, is something that's going to come into the judges' minds when they make their final decisions on the top 24, the top 20, or however they're going to do it this year. So I think she would have been just as well to go on home because she's not going to make it through in the long run. We had the Deep V's with James Durbin, Emma Henry, Danny Pate, Caleb Johnson, and John Jordan. They sang Somebody to Love. You know, I'm already sick of James Durbin and his sloppy screeching. They were kind of a mess, but you know that's what happens when you spend your time worrying about what another group is doing instead of staying focused on your own group. They were so concerned with this group of teenagers that were getting help from their moms that they let their own group suffer for it. Now, I do agree that these kids should not have been allowed to have their parents coaching them, but I don't care if Aretha Franklin is there coaching them. You can't worry about what other people are doing. You have to worry about your own group. So James and Caleb were the only ones that made it through that group. I would have sent them packing too. Next was the group of teenagers also singing Somebody to Love with Keona Evans, Jalen Harris, Sarni-joi Crow, Felix Ramsey, and Deandre Brackensick. Confusing names, aren't they? And they were much better than the last group, though I wasn't as crazy about it as the moms and the judges were. Still, it was really good. I think Deandre was the best, though. He might be one of those to watch out for. You know, though, if these kids make it far, their moms might want to prepare themselves for the hatred that will come towards them because some people believe that stage parents are just like the worst kind of evil in the world, right up there with Osama bin Laden. Remember in season 7, people were hating on David Archuleta's dad, saying that he was withholding water from David Archuleta unless he had a perfect performance. I don't even believe that was true because you can't expect somebody to sing well if you don't let them wet their whistle. So it's just another reason why I wish the age limit was 18 instead of 15, because then you wouldn't need the parents around. Of course, when they're 15, they have to let their parents come there with them. We also had a group with Steve Clawson, Corey Levoy, and Hollie Cavanaugh. They sang Grenade. Now, they were just a mess. Poor Steve sealed his fate when he started reading the lyrics that he had wrote on his hand. Steve, if Sarah Palin couldn't get away with doing that, what makes you think you could? Honestly, though, I thought Holly Kavanaugh was the only one that I would have salvaged from that group, but they put through Holly, Corey, and his J-Lo booty. Corey was just as surprised as those of us watching at home. He said, "Why?" I said the same thing, Corey. I said the same thing. We had the Night Owls with Dan, something, Laura Johnston, Julie Zarilla, Melissa Lucas, and Casey Abrams. They sang Get Ready a cappella, and they were just a complete mess. Julie and Casey were the only ones that got through in them. I don't see why they let Casey Abrams through. I don't see the appeal in him, really. I thought he was the worst of the group, but what can you do? We had Ebony, Ivory, and Every with, I don't even know these people's names, with Naima, Adedapo, and Jacob Lusk. You know, I thought it was okay. The judges loved it. Steven said every little bit of it was beautiful. And I thought Jacob's ending was pretty silly, but they said he's the new star. They all made it through. We had 4 non-blondes and that guy with Caleb Hawley and Chris Medina, who I think are twins and sounded mediocre. Aaron Kelly. When did he get a sex change and decide to come back on American Idol? Okay, so it was a female Aaron Kelly. Wouldn't it have been interesting and confusing if she had been on the show last season with the other Aaron Kelly? Anyway, Devin Rush was the only one that was eliminated from that group. And that guy, Carson Higgins, in the group, I thought he was very strange and interesting. He was the best one in the group. And of course, they all made it through except Devin. She wanted to hatch a scheme to get back in that room and try again, but it was a no for her. Also out are Paris Tassin, Adrian Beasley, Courtney Penry, one of the Gutierrez brothers, and lots more. If I missed anybody, oh well. So anyway, there were 100 contestants that have made it for the Hollywood solos tonight, and only half of them will make it through to the next round, or to next week, or I think they're going to Las Vegas or something. I don't know, but I'm still totally confused. Maybe tonight will be a little bit easier to review. I'll see you folks later.